The Cleveland Browns are 10-5. Man, it might have been perfect. It might not have been perfect from start to finish, and we've got a lot to talk about injury news-wise and whatnot, but just take a second to go, Christmas Eve, Browns win by 2 touchdowns, and the Browns are 10-5 going into the last 2 games here with a real opportunity to win the AFC North. Let's go! Browns win it 36-22. I think we all had some week 2 flashbacks from last year at the end right there, but ultimately, Cleveland able to hold on, and I don't know what's the bigger storyline. Dustin Hopkins, unfortunately, getting injured in the second quarter during a kick return touchdown by Houston, or Amari Cooper setting a team single-game receiving record, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 11 grabs, and the Joe Flacco experience continues to roll. 368 yards, a third straight game now with over 300 yards for Flacco, 3 touchdowns, and listen, the 2 interceptions, you get what you pay for, right? You want Joe Flacco to go deep. If you want the deep balls, if you want him to push the ball down the field, that's going to come at a price. And if that means an interception when Marquise Goodwin was a little bit open but somewhat underthrown and the DB made a nice play, so be it. And as for the second interception in the end zone to round out the end of the first half, if you have a healthy kicker, you kick right there, you get 3 points, and that pick never happened. So I don't have much of a beef at all with Joe Flacco throwing 2 picks. I know that there's been a bit of a turnover trend for Flacco the last couple of weeks, but that's the price of doing business. If you want 368 yards, 42 pass attempts, and 3 touchdowns, there's going to be some consequences with all those risks. A lot of great reward, 3 touchdowns, but if an interception or 2 happens, so be it. But the Browns win. Type LFG down below in the comment section. But let's talk about Amari Cooper. Because Amari Cooper, 11 grabs, 265 yards, 2 touchdowns. He set a single-game record for the Cleveland Browns. He set Cleveland Browns history today with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I'm sure you've heard that a million times by now. But I think it's an honest question here. Is Amari Cooper the greatest receiver in Browns history? Like, I think about Josh Gordon, who might have been maybe more talented than Cooper in some ways, but there has to be something about lack of availability for Gordon, whereas Cooper has been one thing, consistent. He's always out there. Guy gets a rib injury, guy gets a concussion, doesn't miss a game. Guy's always a go-to receiver, no matter who is at quarterback. I mean, think about Amari Cooper and his Cleveland Browns career for a moment. Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Joe Flacco, 5 different quarterbacks in 2 seasons, and it hasn't mattered who's been slinging the rock. He's still going to go up, and he's still going to make great plays, and he's still going to be this team's number 1 wide receiver. Now, as for some injury news on Dustin Hopkins, still waiting for an update from Kevin Stefanski as I record this live after the game, but he left with a hamstring injury, and I think all of us sort of saw ourselves in Hopkins where it's like, whoa, if you sprint for the first time in a long time, your body's going to rebel. And Hopkins, who was chasing down Dameon Pierce, sprinted after him and injured his hamstring, was unable to return. This season has dealt with a lot of injuries. But one injury I am mentally and emotionally not prepared for is to lose Dustin Hopkins, who unfortunately had an opportunity to break Phil Dawson's single-season scoring record for the Browns, and unfortunately was unable to do so because of the injury. But D-Hop, I think we're all praying right now. We'd all donate our hamstring for you. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Again, waiting for an update from Kevin Stefanski as I record this live as he speaks to the media. So we'll probably revisit this at the end of the video. But is Amari Cooper the greatest Browns receiver of all time? Yes or no? I think he's better than Jarvis Landry. Juice was awesome. He was such a winning culture installer that this team needed when they traded for him. But Amari Cooper, he's more than just like a 3rd and 8-yard move or chain mover like Jarvis Landry was. He's got the big play factor to him. 75-yard touchdown grab and a whole lot of other big plays to go along with it. I love me some Amari Cooper. We also need to acknowledge the bad, right? I don't want people just to stick their head in the sand and act like that this game was perfect all the way through. There is a pattern now. This is not a one-off issue. The Browns cannot run the ball. We celebrate when Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong Jr., Kareem Hunt picks up 5 yards like it's a 15-yard carry. The Browns have a serious issue on the ground right now. We're going on 5 games right now where they are averaging over that stretch around 50 yards a game. You can't sustain that. If defenses are able to get Flacco's number in a playoff game, you have to be able to run the ball somewhat. Or maybe even more importantly, how about if the Browns are trying to play with a lead and they can't pick up a first down or two because they can't run the ball for shit? Execution right now. This offensive line is injured, but it just simply has to block better. The running backs have to be better. This is not a coaching issue in my eyes. This is an execution issue for the Browns ground game. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's post-game show, Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. This December, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/BrownsChat50 and use code BrownsChat50 to get 50% off. That's code BrownsChat50 at factormeals.com/BrownsChat50 to get 50% off. Texans offense. Let's talk about the Browns defense. I've probably gone too long without giving a lot of love to Cleveland's defense because sure, you look at 22 points and it might not jump out as a great defensive performance, but 7 of those came off a kick return. So the other 15 came in garbage time down the stretch there where the Browns were quasi playing with all their backups, which they somewhat regretted. But ultimately, they had nothing going for 50 minutes of this game pretty much here. I mean, Cleveland's defense, outside of just the first half penalties to Martin Emerson, who we'll talk about in a moment, and Shelby Harris, Case Keenum initially could get nothing going. 11 for 17, 62 yards, and 2 interceptions. Like, the Browns defense, once again, a masterclass. And it was really important to see that on the road, right? We have seen it at home. Needed to see that on the road. Nico Collins, 4 grabs, 18 yards, 1 touchdown. The Browns right now, and we'll look at the playoff picture in a few moments here, they sit at a very nice spot, of course, with 10 wins. But I also want to add that the AFC South is primed to be the 4 seed in the AFC. And the Browns, if they do not win the division, because Baltimore wins a game or two moving forward, it'll be a potential rematch between the Browns and maybe the Texans. I mean, let's look at the AFC playoff picture. As I film right now, the Jags trail the Bucs 10-0. If Jacksonville loses that game, you're going to have the Jags, you're going to have the Colts, and you're going to have the Texans, all 8-7, which means it's really anyone's division because the Texans play the Colts the last game of the season. That could be a win and the division winner for Houston. And I don't want to play with my food or get greedy here, but the Browns, man, they could have a rematch in Houston against this Texans team which did not have C.J. Stroud, but still, even with C.J. Stroud, I'm not anticipating a drastically different outcome based on the way the Browns' offense dominated today. So fingers crossed, but we could be having a rematch in a couple of weeks, and I bet the Browns would love to play Houston again. As for the Browns' AFC North aspirations, they still need some help. They do not control their own destiny. They're going to need the Ravens to drop most likely 2 out of their next 3, and the Browns win their next 3 games. Sure, if Baltimore loses their next 3 games, the Browns could go 1-1 in this stretch, but I don't think the Ravens are going to lose their next 3 games. So there are still some football games to be played, 5 to be exact, 2 from Cleveland, 3 from Baltimore. But if you're the Browns, win out and ask the Ravens to lose 2 out of their next 3 coming against the 49ers, who are the best team in the NFL right now. And you got to envision, whoever beat the 49ers, they got to be a pretty good team as well, right? Or whoever that might be. And Dolphins, who are leading the Cowboys right now, and the Steelers, who Lamar Jackson historically has struggled against. So very much in reach for the Browns to win the AFC North. And it only feels fitting that in the year the Lions win the NFC North for the first time, the Browns win the AFC North for the first time. So to wrap up the video, prediction time. The Browns will finish with the blank seed in the AFC. I mean, they're not going to get the 4 seed. If they win the division with 12 wins, we're talking about even potentially a number 1 seed, depending how the rest of the AFC shakes out. 2 seed, 3 seed, or if they don't win the division, it's the 5 seed, and they're playing the AFC South champ, whoever that might be. And they have now beaten all 3 of those AFC South contending teams. Houston, Arizona. Watching Arizona game right now. Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. The Browns have beaten all 3 of those teams. Some at home, some on the road. That's going to do it for us on our post-game show today. I should have said this earlier, but Merry Christmas. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas Eve. Enjoy your Christmas Day. Enjoy this victory. And let's go Brownies, baby. 10-5.